if our sound is coming on. Our sound is coming on. If you've never been here with me before, my name is Zakia Ringgold, and on this particular broadcast, we're going to talk about the three different options that we have for cutting cold processed soap. Yesterday, we made 3 loaves. I'll show you those overhead. But sometimes, depending on your budget and what you have available, you can cut with a multi-bar cutter, you can cut with a cheese slicer, and you can also cut with a miter bar. So, what we're going to do is go through all of that. Let's see. We have Facebook user. Unfortunately, it's not showing me your name, but somebody said, "Hey girl, looking good, looking." Well, I got to put my apron on because it's I don't know. When I picked up this soap cutter earlier, it was just all of the soap crumbs on a black shirt. So you know that kind of shows up pretty easily. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the apron on first of all, and then I'm going to show you how I go about unmolding these 3 batches of soap. So first, let's show you overhead what we have on the table. So this was the batch of soap that started getting pretty rock hard after we added the fragrances in there. So what we did was we hurried up, poured it in, and got her in there. This one was supposed to be an in the pot swirl. However, we did not get any in the pot swirling. We got a mixture of the two. So you might see it looks a little bit different here. And that's because we got just a few droppings of that teal green on the top. And then last but not least is our blue and white, where we had a little bit of it in the pot swirl, but we'll figure out what it is that we have. Hey, Sarah Marie. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you so much, Miss Francis. Hi, Sarah Marie. Yeah, Facebook is just rude. Hello, Carla. How are you? So let me switch you guys over, and then we can talk about, oh, maybe before I do that, let's bring you back overhead. Let's talk about these different options. Now, you always have a knife. I always say when you're first getting started, don't go out and buy a whole bunch of equipment that may not be necessary for you. So if you have like a really small budget, this cheese slicer will do absolutely fine in cutting your bars of soap. Then there are miter boxes that you can get at like a Home Depot or anything like that, where you're able to just get a standard soap cutter, and then you're able to measure out different markings within the batch for how far you want to cut it. And then last but not least, what I always use is my multi-bar slicer. And I'll go through and tell you all about that. A student of your soap classes graduate. Love watching. Miss Francis is here. Hey, lady. How are you? All right, let me go ahead and bring you guys back so I can talk to you. So after you've made your soap, you typically have to let it cure for 24 hours. And curing isn't really the right term. You have to let it sit and harden overnight for 24 hours. I typically do 40 to 50% lye solution, which means it's pretty hard within about 12 hours and I can cut it. That curing period is allowing any of the excess water to evaporate out of the soap. I recently went to a soap makers conference. When was that? May? I was at a soap making conference in May. We were in Kansas City, and at that conference we had Kevin Dunn, who is a chemist, and he came and talked about the whole process of the curing period and what's the real difference, like the molecular structure of your soap. How does it change from week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? And honestly, most soap makers, he actually had a triangle test where he gave us 3 different bars that had different curing periods, and all of these educated soap makers, none of us could figure out the difference between that bar that was cured for 3 weeks versus 6 weeks. I'll leave it to all of you to figure out what that means. Drea is here. Hello, Drea. A special shout out to Drea. Drea has been along with me since about 2016, maybe-ish. She's now testing our new community app that we are putting out just for members of Soap Nation. It's kind of like Facebook, but not Facebook. But a special thank you to Drea. She actually got me some gifts. She's always there encouraging. She'll call just to check, say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Don't tell me nothing about soap. How is your heart? And I really appreciate that. So I wanted to give you a quick shout out there, Drea, to just say thank you, and it is appreciated. So let's get to slicing and dicing. The first thing I do is I get some parchment paper because soap likes to be rude and disrespectful in all in all manners. And then I'm also going to get our baker's racks because as we cut them, we're going to put them on the baker's racks to cure. So let me just grab one here. Now, these are aluminum baker's racks. However, as you know, with soap making, we don't want the soap to come in contact with aluminum, so I just left the plastic on the baker's racks until I get some different ones. So I'll put this off to the side here. And then let's talk about getting these babies out the mold. Now, I'm going to start with the one that got hard fastest. And the reason I'm going to do that is because it's also the lightest in color, and I don't want the color to rub off on this bar from the darker bars, like the blue bars, with as little wiping as I possibly would need to do. This isn't about molds or anything like that on this particular broadcast. However, this is a silicone mold, and the reason I like the silicone molds in particular, it's less preparation time and a lot easier, well, not easier to clean up, but less prep time when I have to line my molds, because Nyla is off to college, guys. My oldest daughter, who had the reign of actually lining all of our molds, she's not here. So maybe when she comes back from Bloomsburg, I'll have her line a few molds. But it makes it super easy to pull the soap out of the mold. So hopefully you guys can see that there. Let's see. I'm going to have to look back at the video from yesterday. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Hi, Miss Francis. Hope you are blessed. Love you so much. Oh, thank you guys. So you can see the 3 different colors or layers. This was the base color down here. This is when we tried to add some scent and some color, and it started doing a little bit of discoloration, and then we were trying to add some white. So it just did whatever the heck it wanted to do at that point. So we were just trying to get it in the mold. And even as I was getting it into the mold, I had to like kind of force my spatula across the top to get some kind of texture right there on the front. This is all aesthetic, guys. It is completely safe. If you're like the purest soap maker, you're like, but it doesn't look pretty. If it functions correctly, do not throw the bar out with the bath water, or like, what do they say, the baby out with the bath water. You have a great soap. It's just not like what you had in mind. So keep that in mind. And once you cut them down into the bars, nobody see, well, unlike me, they don't see what your initial bar looks like. So you're good to go. It's good to go. All right. So I got a lot of soap crumbs on here. I'm going to try and get those up. Where's my little box there? So that's our first one. I'm going to unmold all of them because that's just one less thing I'll need to do. But I'm going to put this down because I would hate to be on this broadcast and then all of a sudden it's just like plop on the ground. The next one we did, this one I believe is our cherry almond scent. This is like a surprise bar because you don't think of a teal color when you're thinking of a cherry almond, right? You think of more like a red, who knows? I'm thinking almond, nature, maybe. That's how you would get the teal, but who knows? All right, let's go ahead and get this second one out. And I'm just pushing it. It does have, I'll show you. How do you get molds like this? I did not pay full price for these. I am the president of the New Jersey chapter of the Soap Guild. And one of our members decided to stop making soap and go 100% into cosmetics. So she did a D-stash. So you can find inexpensive equipment by being a member of local groups. And then you can also get them at garage sales, Facebook Marketplace, things like that. That's another way that you can get it. What scent did you use so that I know not to use that scent? This one was called, I want to say Caribbean Woods. No, it was Salty Mariner from Be Scented. And normally they work fine. So, I don't know. Normally I get really good scents from her, but that one just, and it was on sale. You know, normally when things go on sale, there's a reason for it. But here's the thing. I wouldn't say don't use it. It smells amazing. Just don't use it in cold process. Whenever you have a misbehaving scent, use that baby in hot process soap making, because it's not interacting with the lye. So here is our cherry almond with my hair on there. Got a lot of soda ash. No, that's not soda ash. We'll test that. But here is what this one looks like. Hopefully you guys can see it. I am going to do a zap test on that. We're going to do a live zap test on here to make sure it's not lye heavy. Just because, you know, it helps with the views, and I'm curious if it's going to actually zap my tongue. If you guys don't know what a zap test is, before we got all fancy with pH strips to test if our soap was lye heavy or if it was going to be good enough for the skin, what we used to do, not we, I wasn't here, back in the olden days when they made lye soap, what they would do is they would test it by seeing if they got a zap on their tongue. So if you've ever taken like a 9-volt battery and put that up against your tongue, if your soap is lye heavy, it will do that to your tongue. So if it doesn't do that, you've got yourself a good bar. Carla, Zakia, I have a question. Are you supposed to put lye in all natural soap? Oh my gosh, I just posted a video on the, I'm going to bring that up there because that's such a good question. Yes, that is the star secret ingredient of soap making. And here's the thing. You ever hear that thing on Fight Club? What's the number one rule in Fight Club? We don't talk about the Fight Club, but this is the soap club, so we talk about soap. So, first of all, yes, you absolutely positively have to use lye. Yes, that same lye that's in perms and all of that. We use either sodium hydroxide for bar soap, which is this hard soap here, or we will use potassium hydroxide if we want to. I'm about to drop it. Potassium hydroxide if we want to make a liquid soap. So this is a bar soap here. So this one used sodium hydroxide. Oh, and I love this one. I'm going to bring this one closer, Carol Ann. Look at that. And then you can kind of see the side where it kind of looks like waves in there. Very pretty. Alrighty. So, yes, we do use lye. That's what's in that picture normally that you see me with when we are making the soap. However, in order to ensure that there is no lye in the final bar, you see how I'm able to touch this and interact with it? You have to know how to formulate the recipes. So basically, every single oil and butter that we use has a certain amount of lye that it needs to convert those fatty acids into a salt, which then becomes a soap. So understanding that and how much of each ingredient I am using in the recipes, that's how I know how to create the lye solution. And so ideally, if I've done my calculations right, if I've done those right, hopefully, right, I won't have a zap when I go to zap test any of these bars. So funny from soap class, can't have soap without it. Wow, it's pretty, like the beach. My great surprise. And your lime. I'm going to bring that one up because that one's cute. All right. That's Ms. Francis. I love having all your books help me when I need to mix. Oh, I learned something new every read. Hi there, Keisha. How are you? So I don't know if you were here yesterday when we made these, but I got a ton of soap crumbs going on, which is okay. So I'm going to start with the multi-bar cutter first. And that's because that one is going to give me a smaller batch of the soap. And then I'll use that to show you the other two examples. But the reason I prefer the multi-bar cutter, this was a gift from my cousin when I first got started. I prefer it because every single one of my bars is the exact same size. There's no surprises at all. So let's go ahead and switch you guys back over so you can see overhead. There we go. All right, and I'm gonna start with the lightest color first, just so I don't have a whole bunch of color on each of the bars. And then with this one, what you do is you line your soap up. Now, sometimes you can line it all the way up to the end, which is what I'm going to do here. And then you can pull down. And this is where you never, ever, ever need to go to a gym for your arm works out, because you do it with soap making. And then you get a chance to take out the bars, and you can see, even though it didn't, oh, come on, lighting. Even though it didn't look so amazing as an entire loaf, as an individual bar, which is what it's sold as, it looks amazing and it smells incredible. So there you go. And then what I'll do, let's move these out of the way, is I'll just line them up right over here. So you can see we were able to get 1, 2, and they all look identical on the inside. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So with one slice, and that would be an end piece because it has like the ridges on there. We got 11 pieces with a single slice. Conversely, if we wanted to use the individual miter bar slicer here, generally what you would do is you would mark off about how wide you want your soap to be. So I'm going to just take one of these here and eyeball it. No, I'm going to use my marker. I'm going to use my marker, and I'm just going to make a little mark right here. So I'll know to put the bar right up to that point. So we slide it in up to that line. So I don't know if you guys can see the line there. And then we take the cutter and we slice that one down. Now, when would you use this if you have both? And like I said, my bars get pretty hard, pretty fast. When would you use this versus the other one? And I think that one's still wider. Yeah, so it tastes wider than the other bars. The main reason you would want to use this individual one over this multiple one is if you have like intricate designs on the top of the soap, or if that's what you have. Like these multi-bar slicers are like $200 US. These you can get for about $25 to $40. And then there is the cheese slicer, which is about $10 or $15 on Amazon. So same idea. We're going to take one of these bars. I don't even remember how I use this thing. It's been that long. This one, yeah. So you bring it over, and what you do is you do the same thing. You mark where you want it. Now, even if you don't want to do these full bars, maybe you want to cut hotel size bars or sample size bars. What you do is you make your little marking for where you want the bar to end. Same idea. You bring your soap right up to that line, and then you can kind of eyeball it to see, yeah, that's about right. And then you hold it and pull down on the cheese slicer. And then you might have to pull up. I don't know if you guys saw how I did that. And then that's how you can also get the same thing, a uniform bar of soap, but it all depends on what your budget is. Now I should wipe that, but I'm not going to do that right now. I might have to wipe it after this next go round. Now see how it's down at the bottom and it didn't go all the way through? You can like push the soap over, but if you give it a second, it'll eventually cut through. And now you have got a uniform bar. You ever think about doing wholesale? I do wholesale. I do wholesale more than the individual bars, but it's kind of like a secret. It's kind of a secret. Well, it's not really a secret. I do private label where people don't know that I am the one who has made the product. All right, so here we go. Like they're able to put their label on it, like their name, their company. And you got that side there. And now what I'm going to do, now that I've gotten down to like these last pieces, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them into sample bars. Can I do it that way? Right in the middle. See? Now that's a huge sample bar. That's pretty big for a sample, but you know, whatevs. But that's what I wanted you all to see on this video in particular. And that is, it doesn't have to necessarily be the biggest and the best of equipment. And there's even electric soap cutters and air cutters that you can get as you continue to grow and scale your business. So if you have to start with your regular old kitchen knife, do that until you are able to get a cheese slicer. Maybe your first 6 bars of soap, you say, I'm going to go ahead and buy myself a cheese slicer with the profits from what it is that I've made. And then after that, you say, you know what? I think I deserve a miter bar, which causes, or a miter cutter. Oh, that's too wide. Dang it. And if that's the case, invest in that one. And then finally, not finally, but the next step up would be that multi-bar one. Now here's the tricky part with this. You see how the bars are starting to get a little uneven? You have to be very precise if you want even bars. When I first started making soap, I had the most jagged, janky bars ever. And then I'll just keep this one and I'll put this in one of the end pieces that I use. So what I'll do is I'll bag up 16 ounces, which is a pound, 16 ounces of the soap into a bag, and I'll sell a bag of soap by the pound, and it's just a bunch of end pieces from the bars that I've made. So what I'll do is I will take this tray, put it into the baker's rack. Here, let me bring it over so you all can see. So here is the tray now that will go into the baker's rack right behind you over there, and then it'll just cure for about a week. It doesn't have to cure for longer than that. This one does not need a zap test, but I am going to be zap testing the other one. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get that on the rack. You guys want to see well, I'll show you the racks once we get the other ones put in. But I have 40 baker's racks over there, or almost 50. That would have been me. That would have been me. I have 40 of these racks, so that allows me, typically one rack will hold a 6 to a 7 pound batch of soap. So just so the people who are watching this just for the title and it's not clickbait, you do have several options when it comes to cutting your soap. If you are just getting started, try and put more and more money into your ingredients, because truly in soap making, the ingredients that you use are what comes out in your product. The equipment that you use is just making your job easier. So to get those repeat customers, you want to try and make sure that you have a high quality product, and then you can scale up as your business kind of pays for that. So the first thing is use a kitchen knife. There's nothing wrong with using a kitchen knife. You just got to try and have a very steady hand. From there, get yourself a cheese slicer. It just helps you to get more of a straight line when you're cutting. And then if you want to bypass the cheese slicer and just do individual bars, you can go to any Home Depot. They're called miter boxes, right? And then you can get these from anywhere. They're about $5-6. They have the ones that look like crinkles in them, and then they also have the straight ones. And then you can cut your bars to any width that you want. So it doesn't have to be a 1-inch bar or two. Well, if you're selling a 2-inch bar, you better be charging about $30 for it. 1-inch, 2-inch, half-inch, whatever you want, you get to customize that. And then you can also control if you have like melt and pour on top of the soap. You can't cut through melt and pour with a multi-bar slicer. So if you have a melt and pour bar, you're definitely going to want to use something like this for that. Because otherwise it'll pop your strings. And I have popped a lot of strings. You hear me? And then the one that I have settled in on and has done me very well is the multi-bar slicer. They are absolute. Thank you so much, Drea. Let me see. Can I bring that one up? Yay! Comment came out. I'm getting this tech together, guys. It's taking a little while, but we getting there. Does anybody know? I'm asking you at home. Does anybody know what I did with the parchment paper? Because I got like cheese. I said cheese slicer. Now I think I'm cutting cheese. I have soap crumbs all over the table. And that makes it really hard to repurpose the video if it's a bunch of like soap all over the table. But I guess that shows you the real deal behind the scene. This is the real deal for when we're making products. All right. So let's go back overhead so you guys can look at the soap cam here, and we'll cut again with the multi-bar slicer. But we're going to do all of them with the multi-bar slicer because I have a date with Paige very shortly. And then I will replay this video later for people who were not able to be here live. And in color, you can do what you want. All right, so we're going to cut that one last. And I only say that is I don't know if that one's lie heavy, and we're going to have that zap test. I thought you laid it under the shelf on your right. Let me see. I may have, but I don't see it. Unless you meant my other right. You know how it's mirrored on the broadcast. So here is the Honey I Washed the Kids batch. Oh, it smells. Oh, good. Good God Almighty. It smells fantastic. All right, so let's go ahead. Pull this one down. Push. Jesus. All right, and then you'll be able to see the inside as we cut them, but that's how that's going to look. And then each bar kind of has its own little wave going on. See? I have to figure out the right way to have the lighting because it is getting washed out quite a bit. And that just looks like a blob. That side looks like a blob. But it smells good and I know it feels good, so we'll be good. Yep. I bet it smells great in there. You are not lying. Carla, if I could bottle up the smell of my house and like sell that, you know, there was actually a show where they were selling bottled up passing gas. Now I don't know who was buying that, but they were selling it. Like she would pass gas in a jar and people would buy it. Like people buy anything. But no, so I don't know how we got there, but bottling up the smell of the Soap Studio because they refuse to give me smell-o-vision on these streams. I don't know. I was saying on another broadcast how any other time, like you know how you'll be searching for, I need a webcam. And then magically it shows up in your feed for an ad for a webcam. How many times have I said, I need smell-o-vision? I need smell-o-vision, and they just refuse to give it to me. And then we'll put these there. So you guys get the point there. And then this is the ending piece. Now, we don't waste those end pieces. There was a soap maker meetup in New York that I went to, and Vanessa, she showed us a way of using our, we don't want to call them soap scraps, I forgot, our soap pieces, because I mean that's still good soap, but there's a way that you can use that to make a whipped soap, which is pretty cool. Alright, so this is the one, I'm going to bring this up close so you guys can see. You see that white dusting there? No, you don't. I'm the wrong camera. Wrong camera, Carol Ann. So there's a white film that's right there. Now, that either means we are lye heavy. And you see how it's kind of, yeah. I already know the odds of this Zap test coming up. So we'll probably be rebatching this sucker. Hold on, let me take this one out of the way and get us a new tray. So I either did not mix it enough. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Yep, Carol Ann. We don't have a Carol Ann on here, so that's good. Yeah, I can see how this popping off. Come on down. Yeah. Let's show you that, because that'll be helpful for someone to see. Do you see how that is like crumbling under there? That was not completely emulsified. Like, I didn't bring it enough to a trace. So that is definitely going to zap the heck out of my tongue if I do a zap test. You see that? It's just like crumbs. Let me see, that light is messing with me. Take my word for it, guys. So 2 out of 3. Hold on, I'm gonna at least pull these off. But if you take a look at the video yesterday, and as I'm taking these off and actually looking at them, when we made it, this one was the second batch that we made. And even when we got to the last batch, it was still really fluid. It didn't start thickening up at all. At all. And so that should have been a telltale sign that I probably did not mix it long enough. So I got a false trace is what we got. Not that the soap is lye heavy, but it was a false trace, meaning it was not completely mixed with the oils and the butters and the lye solution. Pretty soap, but we don't want to use that one. So let's get that one. And we will end up rebatching this. We'll put it in a crock pot. I'm not concerned that the calculations were incorrect because it was the same batch for all 3. Yeah, so I'll end up having to cut this down, put it into a crock pot, and let it cook. Probably add maybe some coconut milk for the additional moisture. And there you have it. Look at that. That's a really good example of what went wrong, right? We're still going to do the zap test just because I feel like having my tongue zapped. Not really, but that's what we're going to do. Yeah, and the way it's just crumbling off like that, it's definitely not saponified there. All right. So let's bring our camera back this way. And so a zap test. So typically when you're testing your soap to see if it is safe to use, we're looking for the pH. Is it lye heavy? Lye has a pH of about 14, which is way too high. Whenever you're using it in soap, your soap should have a pH of less than 10, preferably 9 or lower. If anybody ever tells you that their pH is down to like a 5 of water, don't believe them, don't use it, it's no longer soap. So typically soap has a pH between 7 and 9. A zap test is when you take a bar of soap and you kind of look at it, it looks at you, and then you tuck your tongue, yep, and it'll do like that. Yeah, I put my tongue on the soap, and it gives you like a shock, like if you were to put a battery on there. So we'll keep that one separate. You guys don't want my licked bar in the rebatched batch of soap. Yep, ouch. Your nails are beautiful. What color are you wearing? These are called Jinx. I don't know if you got, I guess you can see them. They are called Jinx, Jinx. And the lady gets mad at me every time I go to the nail salon. She be like, you want gel? No, just a manicure. You want gel? And I had them cut them all the way down because they were so long and they were starting to hurt. And it's hard, and I was wasting a lot of gloves with my nails being so long because it would pierce through them whenever I was making like a bath bomb mixture or anything like that. Yep, ouch. Wow, they are beautiful. Thank you, Miss Francis. So we got 2 good batches, 1 rebatched batch that we will have to use. And because you could toss it, but waste not, want not. And so instead of tossing it, what we will do is we will just cut it down into smaller chunks, kind of like cheese. Like if you were making macaroni and cheese, put it in a crock pot, add some coconut milk, I don't know, maybe some aloe vera juice, just to give it a little bit of moisture so that it can go ahead and melt down and allow that to cook. And then I can add the fragrance to it again. So hopefully you all found this pretty interesting. We're trying a few things with the stream in terms of having different videos play and all of that. So I'm looking forward to your feedback. I'm going to swing you around one more time. Well, not one more time. I didn't do it the first time. But those are the racks over there. I don't know. Is that coming up? Yeah, that's coming up. So that's where I put the soap that needs to cure. Once my nephew actually wraps it in the plastic wrap, we put them there before we completely seal them. Whenever my uncle or my aunt come, I always have like bags here so we can just kind of grab them, and then they can go over there to the ones that are completely cured. But these are the baker's racks that I got off of Facebook Marketplace. So yeah, that's what we got going on there. I'll bring you back one more again. At some point I'll do the tour. I keep saying this and not actually doing it, but at some point I will do the tour of the space so you guys can see. This is my, can you see over here? Yeah, you can. So this is the setup I have over here so that I'm able to see your comments, kind of grab paper towels and all of that. So that's what we got going on over there. So hopefully you guys have found this useful. Let me find the closeout video. Let's unlock it, and I'll see you all the very next time. Bye, everybody.